Hi, everybody. My name is Stephanie Rink, and I'm a career coach at Next Step Career Services. And I'm very excited today to have my guest, Franklin Buchanan from Post Up Careers. He's a fellow career coach, but I'll stop there. Franklin, why don't you tell us a little about yourself?
Well, thank you for having me, Stephanie. Always a fun time when you and I get to chat. So, about me, I spent 15 years working in recruiting, and I leveraged that expertise of how talent is acquired to coach my clients through their job search with resume writing, LinkedIn profile, interview preparation, and job search networking coaching.
Oh, I love that. I absolutely love that. The recruiter piece has got to be a huge value add for your clients because that's how do we get through to recruiters, right? Like, what do they look for and all of that?
Recruiters are the front line. They're the gatekeepers to almost every opportunity that you see today. And whether it's a 10-minute screening to check some boxes or an in-depth conversation, I think that having been on that side of the book, working with both candidates and hiring managers, that has really informed how I have developed my practice over the last, gosh, we're almost coming up on 4 years since I left to do this full
Four
time.
years. Good for
Yep.
you.
Started it in 2019 officially, but
Officially.
I was able to leave corporate America in 21 and do this since.
Oh, that's amazing. Good for you. Yeah, I have been in business since 2018. So I'm coming up on 7 years, if I'm doing the math correctly.
And math is hard. As we
Math
as
is
we
hard.
both know, math is difficult. And our teachers growing up, they lied to us when they said that you were not going to be able to walk around with a calculator in your pocket. And I have mine right here.
Yes.
Um,
It's
and
so
it was
true.
readily available as we both were doing that math, and I chose not to use it and
Yeah.
said probably the wrong number.
Yeah. When I'm writing resumes, I'm like, I can write, but you do those math equations? Give me a minute. I gotta think about it.
One of the things that stays up constantly on my browser is percent increase and percent decrease calculators
Yes. I have a little sticky note.
because
Yeah.
reduce time to fill from 30 minutes to 3 minutes. I'm like, all right, what is that? Okay, just let me go in here and type it in.
Yeah. Yeah. So tip for resume writing, definitely use percentages. It's a lot more impactful than, 19 to 23 million dollars, like make the percentage. It's amazing.
And if you can
Okay, well,
include both, that's even better.
ooh, good one. That's good to know. So today I want to talk a little bit about networking because the market right now is flooded, right? It's a tough job market. It is a tough job market. It's taking way longer to find jobs. We have layoffs happening. Just I'm hearing about hiring freezes in company, at least in my local area. Like it's tough. It's tough right now. So let's talk about how we can help our clients do more than just push apply because that just doesn't work anymore.
It's 2025. There's always going to be an online element of your job search.
Hmm.
But that's one part of your job search. And the other, every time I hear the word networking, I don't like doing it.
No one does.
But people hear that in their job search and they think, oh Lord, I got to go to the Chamber of Commerce event. And no disrespect to the Chamber of Commerce, but that's, in my opinion, that's not, it can be a part of your networking strategy, but that's not networking strategically. I mean, I went to the Chamber's coffee conversation the other day. It was wonderful. It was delightful. Um, but that's not what I typically think about when I think about networking in a job search.
Yeah. Keep
Um,
keep talking. Tell us more.
oh, well, well, but it's also the hardest part of a job search because when people go out, whether they are laid off, whether they hate their boss, or whether they're just being proactive, here's what 90% of the population does. They pick up their handheld calculator, they call Stephanie, and they say, Stephanie, hey, I think I'm looking for my next opportunity. Stephanie then says, okay, well, what are you interested in doing? Whether you have an answer for that or not is irrelevant because the next logical question that Stephanie asks is, okay, can you send me your resume? In which case, I sent you my resume. And then that resume sits in your inbox unless by happenstance something comes across your desk, which it does happen. Of course it does. But even still, that's pretty rare because taking our profession out of the situation right now, because I know you know what to do with it.
Yeah.
But most people don't know what to do with that resume. And even people that would bend over backwards and do anything they could to help you, they don't want to do. So they sit on the resume unless something comes across their desk. And that's what almost every single job seeking client and prospective client that I talk to is doing. And it's a very tactical conversation. It's very transactional is probably the better word that I'm looking
Yes.
for here.
Very transactional.
Because at the end of the day, it just comes across like, I'm looking for you to do something for me, Stephanie, and it's help me find a job. Um, so the best thing that anybody can do is to take that transactional approach, throw it in the trash can, and try to be a little bit more strategic. And I think that there's two ways that you can go about being more strategic. Number one is reframe what you're asking, right? I'm not asking you to find me a job. I think that there's two things that can come out of a good strategic networking conversation. The first is feedback.
Yeah. Feedback's huge.
Because the people that you're calling know you. Like you're not cold calling somebody on LinkedIn that you've never met. Well, I mean, you could,
You could,
but
but not
that's a
generally.
different conversation for another
Yeah.
podcast. Um,
Yeah.
but these are people that you know. They could be former managers, former coworkers, peers, like
Friends.
even friends and family work out. These are conversations with people that know you. They understand or have some understanding of what you are professionally, what you do professionally, and they know you personally. And so when the person on the other end of the networking conversation has that institutional knowledge of you, they're able to give you 360 feedback better than any Myers-Briggs or DISC assessment that you can take on their experience with you if you ask the right questions and frame your asks the right way. What that does, I mean, it might open your brain up to skills that you possess that you haven't thought of.
hmm
It could open your brain up to career paths that you haven't thought of. Like I was working with a sales client recently, and they were focused sales, 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 sales. They went and met with an old colleague of theirs, and that colleague told them, like, "Hey, I think your skill set's a lot better suited for customer success and account management." So that way, like, I just know how much you hated, like, you did the dials and your numbers were fine, but you could just see you're tensing up. But if you move into customer success, like you still get the relationship aspect of it, but you're just not having to make so many cold calls. And you know, that was something that the client had never thought about.
Yeah.
And so feedback is one. And then I think the most underutilized aspect of your existing network is opening up that other person's network to you. Because at
hmm
the end of that conversation of the sales client that I was referencing, my client asked the person that they were networking with, "That's a really great point that you've made. Is there anybody that comes to mind that you might recommend that I connect with next?" Oh my God. Now the person that they're networking with has an ask that they can easily act upon other than, "Here's my resume. Can you help me find a job?"
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it's a
I can
small
introduce you
ask.
to John over at ABC Company.
Yeah. And they
Just,
feel good about it. Like your
yes,
network, your friends, your colleagues, they feel good about connecting you with somebody because they can
yes.
vouch for you
Hmm.
and they know they're not wasting the time of the next person they're sending you to.
Yep.
Yeah. And it's
I wish
somewhat,
I,
and it's small. It's small. It's not like find me a job. It's small. Like just make an
yeah.
introduction.
And it's 5 minutes of their time to type an email, send a
hmm
text, make a call. Everyone
hmm
communicates differently, but you're asking them to take 5 minutes, and you're asking them to take 15, 20 minutes out of their day to talk to you. But again, these are already pre-built relationships. They're happy to do so because people naturally want to help you.
Yes.
They just don't know how. And you as the job seeker have to guide them on how they can help you. And then we as coaches guide them on how to guide them.
Yes. Exactly. Exactly.
I wish I had the I was gonna say, I
Go
wish I
ahead.
had the data in front of me because I don't, and I can't think of it off the top of my head right now of how many positions are filled through referrals.
Oh, I think it's 70. give or take. But
It's
yes, we don't have the data right in front of us. But yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot.
it's in
And
that ballpark because referrals are cheap hires. You're not paying an external recruitment firm for it. You're not, you might be paying an employee bonus for putting in their referral key. Um, but they're cheap ways to hire, and good people know good people.
it's very tough to hit apply and then go through that process and get an offer. It really is. It's usually something about who you know, which doesn't mean, I mean, it can work. I've had many clients hit apply and get through it. But because of networking at some point in this, because you mentioned cold messaging earlier, sometimes that also kicks it off because you become visible and you become a real human being. You're more than
Yeah.
just a piece of paper.
Within my practice, I do take on select searches that are exclusive and retained, and I'm in the middle of one right now. And I actually have gotten some good candidates off of an online posting. Um, but here comes a disruptor. Here comes a referral that knows the director of operations at the company, and now they're the next call after you and I are done. So I can do an initial screening of them. But with the second I got the text from the director of operations, I was like, I'm pretty sure they're going to hire this person.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not
And
no disrespect to the other ones, but you
they
know,
know them. They know who
yeah.
they are.
And
They
they
know
came
who
from
they
a
are.
trusted source that they know really well.
Yes. Yeah. And that's,
So
I think that, so how do we help our clients that feel like they don't have a network, right? Because I get, every blue moon, I'll get a client that's been 20 years at a company, especially around here in Boise, Idaho. Like there's some big companies that they've been there their entire life. And they feel like their network is so small because they've always worked with the same people. And so to kick this part of the conversation off, like I've had clients where I'm like, well, think about it. Where are they now? Like not
yeah,
everybody stayed for 20 years. So let's build your LinkedIn. Let's reach out. Let's check in. But I always go about authenticity. I'm like, do reach out to the people you liked, right? The
yeah,
people that you cared about. Start a conversation. But I also think there needs to be some honesty where it's like, hey, like I'm starting to think about looking, you know, what do you think about your company? Or not asking for a job. I never say that, but like tell me your opinion. Like even if it's messaging, because it doesn't have to be a face to face, but even if it's just
yeah,
messaging, tell me what you think about that. But pointed
yes,
questions where they can get some information. And maybe that'll lead to a job, but you're not asking them right out of the gates to be like, hey, can you get me a job at your company? My husband is in corporate world and it happens to him all the time. And it's a big turnoff. He's like, I haven't
yes.
talked to this guy in so many years. And then all of a sudden they want me to recommend them to a job at my company. Like, I don't, it makes them very uncomfortable. So that's why I say don't ask for the job, but maybe ask them about their company, maybe ask them about the role. Check in with them first, see what they're
Yes.
doing. Right.
Simple check-in. Like it's amazing how just reconnecting a previous relationship, because we're humans. It's 2025 and we're 250 character worlds and the shiny objects are capturing our attention, and we've all grown from 20 years ago, and it's natural to lose touch with people
Mm-hmm.
that you worked with previously. Um, but it's always for me, it's always nice to hear from someone. Um, and when they're asking me for help, I'm a little bit different just because of the background. But standard people are like, "Gosh, I haven't heard from you in 20 years, and you want me to do this?"
Mm-hmm.
Just, but you'd be surprised if you approach that conversation with a just let's catch up. How are you doing? How's the work? What's it like there? And then in the conversation, I've been thinking about making a move. I appreciate all your feedback on the company. It's really kind of given me a lot to think about.
Yes. And that makes a
Oh,
huge difference because you're not asking.
yeah, you're not asking anything, but what you're doing is you're starting to trigger them to think, oh, well, there is this opening over here.
Mm-hmm. Or hey, you
And
should talk to this person.
yeah, I heard John in accounting was looking for a new accounting supervisor. I can check.
Yeah.
Can't hurt.
It can't hurt.
Mm-mm.
It can't hurt.
But
Then oh, go ahead.
no,
I'm so
you go ahead.
excited. We have so much to say. I also tell my clients to nurture their network after they get the job because it's icky to be like, oh, I'm only talking to people when I'm looking. And let's say if somebody looks every 3 or 4 years, like you're only touching base when you need something. Um, and so I do like LinkedIn in the sense of, a milestone show up and you can comment or you can send them a message or even putting in like twice a year calendar reminders of like, oh, go send, oh, it's the summer. Hope you're having a good time. Like just something because you don't want to lose that network because you ran out of time or because you don't need something. Like it has to be genuine.
Yeah, it does. I mean, LinkedIn's great about having alert you as to whose birthday it is.
Hmm.
And there's an easy automatic check-in. And don't use the
Oh,
standard,
don't.
like, I think the new one on LinkedIn is like wishing you the happiest birthday, first name. I'd rather you delete that and say happy birthday, Franklin.
Yes.
Because I know that you've actually taken the time to type, 3 words. Um, but there's an easy built-in check-in. And like you said, put something else on the calendar. Like if they're active on LinkedIn and they post, like their posts, comment on their posts. It takes 30 seconds. Great point, Stephanie. I love the point that you made last week about resumes. It's simple to do, but it keeps that network alive in this digital world that we live in. The other thing that I do want to mention is when you're networking in your job search, make sure you're keeping said network informed of your progress during your job search.
Oh, that's great. That's gold. Yeah. Let them know where you're
Don't
at.
just, I connect with you and you introduce me to somebody else. I can't be leaving Stephanie hanging as I'm going and interviewing elsewhere. I need to let you know, hey, Stephanie, thanks for introducing me to Angie. And she and I talked last week and she's got this opening. It's important to keep your network informed about where they are because number one, it makes them feel good. I'm really glad I was able to help. And it's just the polite thing to do.
It's the polite thing to do. And I do feel like we've lost some of that recently with the speed of the digital world. Like we get so overwhelmed, we forget to say the simple thank yous. I'm actually really big on sending e-gift cards, like Starbucks, like buy them a
That's a good idea.
coffee. Yeah, something like that. But now, of course, I'm like, put $10 on it because you can't buy anything
No,
for five
$5 gift
anymore.
cards will get you like a half of a tall coffee.
Yes, yeah, exactly. You
Maybe
can't do
it
that
get you
anymore.
maybe one egg bite.
One egg bite, exactly. So I'm like, at least do 10. But yeah, send little mementos that say thank you and let them know how you're doing and following up. It's just huge. But the relationship building, so extroverts I don't worry about. Like you mentioned Angie earlier, oh my gosh, she is all over her network. She knows how to
Yeah,
follow up with people and it's personalized. Like she's amazing. Like she knows things about you that you're like, oh, I told you about that 6 months ago and she remembers. Introverts though, and I'm a little bit on the introvert side, it's harder. It's
yeah,
harder because you have to put yourself out there,
it
right?
is because people love to help. People hate asking for help.
Exactly.
And I don't know if I'm an introverted extrovert or an extroverted introvert. I can't quite figure it out. Um, one of these
Depends
days
on
I
the day.
will. Yeah, it really depends on the day, how much sleep I've had. But um, it is harder for people that are naturally introverted. And one thing I try to reassure my clients on is that you're not asking them for money. You're not asking them for a job. You're asking them for 20 minutes. That's it.
Mhm.
And some feedback and maybe an introduction. And if, I have my clients write out a list of connections and contacts. And if they're on that list, you mean something to them and they want to help, but they can't help you unless you help them help you. And
Yes.
once they have that first conversation, though, the stress just kind of lifts off, and they get that first one done. I do tell my introverted clients, don't schedule more than two of these conversations in a day, because what happens is if your adrenaline pumps, especially in the beginning, and you get that adrenaline surge even in a competitive basketball game or a round of golf, and you finish and you're done. You're like, oh my God, I'm so tired. Don't burn yourself out on one and waste the second. I'd rather you space these conversations out than stack them all in a day. Stack 5 in a day and only have one good one.
Right. No, that's really great advice. That's really great advice. And we know that just as career coaches, because if I have too many meetings, I get burnt out and I'm not a good coach,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's the key. That like I was a stupid idiot this week in how I scheduled my resume projects that were due. Um, knowing the flueness that we had last week, um, and the reality that I probably overstepped some of my deadlines, that was my mistake. Like, you think I know better at this point, but I do. But um, and so yeah, like you don't want to have to. I had to push one out because I was like, I can't get this done because my eyes are bleary, and 3 family members that are doing their thing up there. So you have to like you've got to be on your game in order to get something out of anything. Like when I used to coach basketball, I always tell them like I remember we had one game and my team came in and I just saw on their faces, and I was like, God, I knew that they had a spend the night birthday, and I was like, guys, what time did y'all go to bed? Coach, I think it was like 4 a.m. We had an 8:30 game. I'm like, we're gonna lose.
Oh no. Oh
I knew
no.
in that instance we were going to lose that game, and we did. It was a close game, and had they not been bleary-eyed and tired, and I don't think half of them had eaten breakfast, we probably would have won. Um, but they weren't at their best, and they lost. And so it's
Yeah.
important to be at your best.
Yeah, it's true. And I would say for our clients, it's so I've been really lucky. I've been going through some healthcare stuff, and as soon as I opened up and let my clients know, they were super gracious. But in some sense, I think it built confidence too, because it was like, oh, you're aware of yourself. And so if you are delayed a day or two with my resume, no big deal because I know you're working at it. Right.
Yeah.
Or like I can't meet with you today because I'm just not in that mental state. Like I find that if you do this as a job seeker, if you do the same thing, I wouldn't blow off an interview, maybe not that, but
No.
if you're networking and you're not feeling it, just be honest, right? You don't have to tell them the full stat story, but you can be like, hey, not a great day for me. That self-care and job searching is huge. And I really stress it now because it's just taking so
Mhm.
long to land a job.
And when the big picture is the job, especially if you've been unemployed for a long time, um, the longer you go, the bigger the picture seems to get, or the smaller the picture seems to get, and the harder it
Mm-hmm.
is to attain. And so, if you can take that picture of the new job and break it down so that you can create wins, because easy apply on LinkedIn, online application, even tailoring the resume, yeah, it takes work. And when you don't see results from it, it becomes exhausting. And same thing with the networking piece. Have a goal of 3 conversations this week.
Right, right.
Okay. And
That's
then
not a
when you
lot.
meet that goal, celebrate that win, whether it's with going to play putt-putt or going to a movie or enjoying a cold beer. Um, uh, celebrate each win in your job search, and just, you know, whatever it might be, break it down so you're not just, "Oh, I had 3 meetings this week and then it's nothing." You had 3 meetings this week. That's awesome. That's more than most job seekers are doing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's I can't stress enough. It's not just about hitting apply. Like you have to do more than just hit apply. And I'll see like on LinkedIn where these conversations where there are job seekers that are super just angry, if you will. Like, I don't need to do more than hit apply. I don't need to do this. Our friend Mark Missiano, one of his posts blew up because he was talking about putting more effort into the job search. But that's where we're at. Like, you have to. I mean, it's the digital age is here. Long gone are the days. I love these clients that come in with these stories. I cannot imagine printing my resume on pretty paper, walking down the street to talk to the receptionist saying I'm here for a job, and then miraculously an interview is scheduled. Like I can't comprehend that time frame when that actually happened. That is, it's not the case. You do need a profile online, you do need a resume that's tailored, um, you do need warm introductions to vouch for you. Reference letters. So I do have a few people that come with reference letters, and I'm pretty flexible with that. I'm like, hey, if you want to throw it on the third page of your resume, I'm like, it won't hurt.
Yeah.
but like it's not the same as somebody saying, "Oh, I know this person and I know you and I can vouch for this person." There has to be a conversation.
References available upon request might be the most misused thing on a resume. Again, I'm like you, like I
I
don't
don't
put them
use
on
it.
there when I write a resume for a client. But if they insist on it, I'll be like, all right, fine, attach them as a third page, or let's create a reference sheet that you can submit with the online application, or you can send. Um, but don't just let your references be available upon requests. Your references are your network. They're the people that we've been talking about. You need to be talking to. They're your
Yeah,
door openers.
yeah.
And that's where everyone goes wrong with their references. They put them on the resume to get a phone call. I've got an Ask a Recruiter series that blog series that I do on my website, and I've got a handful of recruiters that I've known for a long time that have answered common job seeking questions. And I asked them one about references, and they're like, "Yeah, it's still done, but at the end of the day, it's just a formality at this point."
Hmm.
And it's just one of those other aspects of the job of the box that needs to get checked. And people aren't putting down references that are going to say bad things about them. That happened
Hopefully
once in
not.
my recruiting career. And it was a candidate that put his mother down, and she hadn't seen him in months. And she was like, "You need to tell him to call his mama." He didn't get the job.
I'm sorry. That's hilarious. Oh goodness. You gotta take care of your
And
mom.
I'm like, dude, if you're not going to talk, I'm a mama's boy. If you're not talking to your mom, I'm not moving forward with you and your job
I'm
search.
close with my mom too. I'm like, what are you doing?
And if you were stupid enough to put her down as a reference, knowing that you haven't talked to her in months, then like we can't move forward here. Um, but yes, like put them to work. Have those networking conversations. If they know you that well to be a reference, they know you well enough to give you that 360 feedback that I was talking about earlier.
Yeah. And I will say this. So feedback is wonderful about you, right?
Hmm.
When it comes to branding, like let's talk a little bit about resume writing, LinkedIn profiles. Working with a professional can help a lot, but be careful because what we do, and as a recruiter, I think you can vouch for this, we know exactly what needs to happen to get across the ATS or to at least trigger with the recruiter, like, oh, this person's qualified, right? Sometimes when we ask for feedback about the verbiage on our resumes or our LinkedIn profiles, it asks the questions like, does this make me a strong candidate for XYZ position? Be wary of edits, be wary of, oh, this isn't the case, because everybody has an opinion. You have to pick the strategy you're comfortable with. And going back and forth about an action verb is not the best use of your time.
Bolstered, elevated, uh, you know, it means the same thing. As long as it's not managed, then
Yeah.
the core, I think I put on LinkedIn today, like, because I was looking at an executive resume yesterday, and on his very first bullet point at his most recent job, which was a senior VP of technology, it was coordinated.
Oh, no, no,
That's
no,
a
no, no.
conversation that we need to have. But at the end of the day, like, yeah, I mean, elevated, activated, bolstered,
Mhm.
remediated.
Initiated,
We know.
spearheaded.
I just want to
Yeah.
see the number. Like, I want to see the result.
Yeah. Yeah. But I
Increase.
do the feedback of like, does this make me sound like a strong person in this area? Like, I get that. I love that. But be wary because we do know what we're talking about.
Yes.
Like we do.
We're subject matter experts for a reason. Like I'll give you the recruiter look at it. Here's what I look at when I'm looking at a resume. Number one, I'm looking for your contact information first. And it
Hmm.
is staggering to me how many people don't put their contact information at the top.
Yes.
You've
Yes.
got 7, maybe 10 seconds, 30 if you got a real generous recruiter, and you're going to make them search for your contact information, um, or just not put it on there at all. So first thing, I want to know what your contact information is. Then I'm going to your job title. I want to know, are you in the ballpark of job title? And then I want to see your results.
Hmm.
I like to see like a high level summary of the scale of the position. So, like VP of sales, lead a sales team of 20 across enterprise accounts in whatever sector with a budget of, $2 million. I like seeing that information because gives me a sense of scale. A lot of clients are like, oh, what if the position I'm applying for is bigger than that? I'm like, well, everyone starts somewhere. If I can
Hmm.
get somebody that's doing the same job, great, but the odds of that are pretty low. Um, and so it's natural for someone to take that next step and take on more responsibility if you can demonstrate the results in what you have. And so then I'm looking for the results, and then I'm making the call from there.
Right. Exactly.
I'm reading your summary as I'm either sending you an email to set up an interview, or as I'm calling you to set up an interview. That's where I like your summary. That's where I like looking at your skills. That's where I like looking at your scope.
Right. And yeah, and that takes a minute to figure out, right? It's
It
many
does.
people don't know that information at the top of their head. I find that many of my conversations, I'm like, what about this? What about that? Can you describe this? What are your numbers? And even some of my mid managers, or maybe they're individual contributors wanting to be a manager, they don't have that data.
Yeah.
And it's still like, okay, but give me examples. Like, what did you produce? What did you work on? The AI resumes don't work because they don't. If you know how to use prompts correctly, maybe you could get the result, maybe. But you have to have conversations about these things to really pull out what is needed for that next role, especially when you're elevating in your career.
Yep, exactly. And I did a blog post on I asked ChatGPT to write my resume, and it was absolute garbage.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually it's going to get there. And that's like one things that keeps me up at night. It's like, all right, AI is coming for my job. Um, but it's not even close yet. And that's
Not
where
yet.
the value of somebody working with us, shameless self-promotion by you and me, but we know what we're doing, and our clients get results, and the testimonials are there for a reason. And it's because we get it. We know what the other side is looking for and what's going to help you stand out. And the difference in however much money you spend with us, let's just let's use our calculator.
Yes, do. I'll let you do it though, so
So
I don't look like an idiot.
my kids have rearranged my apps on here. So let's say you're making 80 grand and you want to make your aspirational position is $100,000. So let's use round numbers.
Yes.
So you're looking for a $20,000 raise. So $20,000 divided by 2080 is $10 a week, basically.
Okay.
Okay. Just ballpark. So let's say you pay $500 for a resume. So if it shaves, oh God, I'm doing my math wrong here because I can't type.
This is why I'm letting you do it.
I know.
I was like, not me. I can
Like I
handle
keep hitting the
spreadsheets.
wrong numbers. Like if it shaves about 100 days off your job search, it pays for itself.
Yeah, exactly.
And in a world of 7 month, 8 month job searches, it's worth it.
It's worth it. It's worth it. I'm finding so the clients that work with me long term, they take my program. Their average is 4 months, which is
Mhm.
astounding. Yet when I initially have these conversations where I'm like, look, nationwide, it's 6, 7, 8 months. My clients that do this program, it's usually about 4 months. Sometimes we can get it sooner than that. They're like, oh, 4 months? I'm like, wait, that's the average. That is not everybody's job search. It could take longer. Whoa, right? They think that, well, and as a recruiter, you can vouch for this. You submit a resume, they think they're going to get a call the very next day. I'm like, no, it
Mhm.
could take weeks before they
Yeah.
look at it.
Mhm.
Weeks. And they don't seem, can you explain why that happens? Because a lot of my clients don't understand why it's not a 24-hour turnaround.
So I'll use this current search that I'm doing right now. And I just got an application notification. I'm probably not looking at that today. I've got other stuff on my plate that I'm doing. I've got my referral I got to call. I also have two candidates in process right now. And
Interviewing, like processes and interviewing. Okay.
yep. And do I necessarily want to disrupt that process? No, I don't. Um, I am going to eventually look at that, but I want to see what happens first. Client could come back and say, you know, they were good, but we're not quite sold, in which case, yeah, I'm going to start going through the rest of the applications that I got. Um, but the client might say, like, bam, I like that first one. She's perfect. Okay.
That's
Now
it.
we're just at a formality. But that posting stays up until that
Mhm.
person's in that seat because things can happen.
Things can happen.
Background checks have to happen. Drug tests have to happen. And so a lot can happen between extending an offer and a start date. And I've seen some interesting ones. I've seen fraud. I've seen crime. I've seen all the drugs you could possibly imagine on drug tests. Um,
Yes, yes,
and
on drug test.
and so like having that applicant, and so I'm not guaranteed that the people are in. Obviously, they pick one over the other. Probably not going back to the other, in which case new candidates need to come in. All right, now let me look and see what we have. Um, Follow up on your applications because one of the people interviewing followed up on her application. I probably would not have seen it had she not sent me a
Mhm.
follow-up message. And I looked at it and lo and behold, all right, qualified. Let's go.
Yeah, it makes a
Um,
difference.
and worst case scenario, you don't hear back. Don't
There,
take it personally if you haven't heard back. Um,
that's hard. That's very, very
Now,
hard. And
of course,
we
it's
work
hard
that.
because the job
Yeah.
search is personal. Um, but at the same time, you know, a recruiter's juggling clients. They're juggling anywhere between, probably 30 initial candidates. We start out with before we whittle that down to 10. Before that gets whittled down to maybe 3 submittals. And so, yeah, it's important to keep the people that you talk to in the loop. Um, and let them know, hey, we decided to move forward with these 3 candidates. If any changes, we'll let you know. And at the end, when the rejection mail happens, it means the job is probably closed. Or if there's prereq questions, you answered one of them wrong.
Right. Right. And that's what I tell my clients if they're getting auto rejections, because they happen weird too, 2 in the morning. And I've heard a lot of theories about this, like it's not automated, it's a human being. It's not a human being, it's automated. But I I believe there are algorithms, questions, qualifications that if you just don't meet it, you automatically get rejected. And
Yeah.
I know
Look,
that's
I'm
hard.
looking. You got to have a minimum of a bachelor's degree for this job. And if you don't have it, you're not getting considered. And I've never been one for, oh, an education matters. Well, this is an accounting position. Like the education does in
The
fact
actually
matter.
does matter. Yeah. Yeah.
And so, like if you apply and you don't have that bachelor's in accounting, you're getting auto rejected. I'm not, no, I'm not seeing your application because it's gone. And I'm not going to look at it. Don't lie and say you've got the Bachelor of Accounting when you don't, because I'll figure that out real quick. Um, but if you don't have one of the minimum qualifications, it's it's I hate to say tough luck, but it's the reality of the job search. They're looking for someone. Like I had a client. She sent me. She's a sales client, and one of the big four had a SaaS sales position open. And I mean, her metrics are good on her resume. She's got a bachelor's. I think she has a master's. Um, no, she does not have a, she's associates and bachelor's. Um, awesome sales numbers across 3 different industries. But this is a big four. They're going to get exactly what they want in the
Yes.
preferred qualifications. They wanted someone with a master's degree, someone with at least 8 years of SaaS experience, preferably in cybersecurity. She didn't have that. And I told her, I said, they're going to hire someone with this exact background. You don't have it. You can apply and see what happens. You can't get it if you don't send your application in, if you don't know anybody there. But just keep your expectations low because they're going to get what they want.
Yeah. Yeah. When they have hundreds and hundreds of applicants trying.
Yeah.
It's so true. It's so
Yep.
true. Wow, I'm pretty sure we've gone over time. This was a
We're
great
going way over time,
conversation.
which is easy to
Very,
do whenever I
it's,
get to chat with you.
oh, I know. It's so true. I'm so excited to see you soon in Chicago for our Thrive conference. That's going to
Yes.
be very exciting. So if you are a resume writer, career coach, or in the career services area, put a comment here. We will tell you all about this conference for career service professionals. Very exciting. But yes, this is great. So any last minute advice, and then tell us how we can connect with you.
Get help. Hire a coach. I did a careers and beers video at the ski slopes a couple of months ago. I'm not a good skier. So what did I do? I
Hire
hired a
somebody.
ski instructor. And guess who only fell twice in one weekend? Me. Whereas
Yay.
last year I was falling twice every 5 minutes. And so this year I was like, I've got to get ski help and learn how to ski so I can go ski with my daughter. And I hired a ski coach and it worked. Hire a career coach. It works.
It
To get in
works.
touch with me, you can email me, franklin@postupcareers.com. Connect with me on LinkedIn, Franklin Buchanan. On social media, it's at Post Up Careers across Instagram, X, and where else am I? TikTok.
Oh, you're on
And
TikTok. Ooh.
um, yeah, that's an interesting place. My For You feed is mostly steak videos and dealing with small children, so it is helpful. And Netflix movies that I would have never found. Um, but
Fabulous.
yeah, connect with me. Send me a message. I'm always happy to have a conversation before I engage with my clients. Uh, Love to hear about your job search, how I can help. Because sometimes you might not need our help. Sometimes you just might need that initial 15, 20-minute conversation to say, hey, do one thing differently. Do this one thing differently. And I'll bet you'll start seeing results.
Yeah. Yeah. It might be as simple as that. But you
Yep,
don't know until you ask. You don't know.
exactly.
Well, Franklin, thank you so much for your time today. I hope all of our listeners enjoyed our cover. We covered a lot. We covered a lot today. So have a great day, everybody, and we'll see you in a couple weeks. Bye.
Thanks, Steph.